My friend wrote to me, "Is it possible for a Stoic to be mindful during moments of passion like sex or rage?" I think this is such an interesting question, because I think we can take some lessons from ancient philosophy and apply them to our modern lives. And one of those lessons is about how do we cultivate mindfulness in moments of passion. First, let's define what we mean by passion. See, passion means different things to different people. But in general, we're talking about moments of intense emotion or desire. That could be good, right? It could be that you're having sex and you have a moment of great passion. Or it could be bad. It could be that you're so angry that you feel like you're going to explode. So in either case, what does it mean to be mindful during those moments? Well, let's start with what it means to be mindful. I think that being mindful means you are fully present in the moment. You're aware of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions and how they're affecting you and others. So now let's think about moments of passion. We can take this idea of mindfulness into two parts. The first part of mindfulness is being aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And in moments of passion, it is probably pretty easy to see how we can lose awareness of our thoughts and our feelings and even our actions. So if you're really angry, you might be unaware of just how angry you are in the moment. If you're having sex, you might be unaware of all the thoughts racing through your mind or even what you're feeling physically in your body. So in both cases, the first part of mindfulness, which is being aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, it seems like it would be pretty easy to lose that in a moment of passion. But there's also a second part to mindfulness. It's not just being aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. The other part of mindfulness is learning how to respond to our thoughts, feelings, and actions in a healthy way. So this is where things get a little bit more complicated. Because if you're in a moment of passion, whether it's anger or sex or any other intense emotion, what should you do with that information? How should you respond? In a lot of ways, Stoicism teaches us to avoid certain emotions. And so if you're in a moment of passion, the Stoics would say that's probably not a very good thing. In fact, Seneca says this, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." What he means by that is if you're constantly distracted by every passing fancy, by every emotion that comes along, then you're not really present anywhere. You're not really living intentionally. So maybe in that sense, a Stoic shouldn't indulge in moments of passion. They shouldn't let themselves get distracted by them. Instead, they should try to avoid them altogether. Epictetus says something similar when he talks about how sometimes it is better to avoid things entirely than to try to change them. He says, "What you resist persists." So maybe in moments of passion, the best thing to do is to walk away, to remove yourself from the situation, to try not to engage in that passionate behavior at all. But here's the thing, life is messy and sometimes you can't avoid those moments of passion. Sometimes they re-gone nah catch you off guard and sometimes you re-not gone nah be able to control them. Maybe you're having an affair and you don't want to be having it, but you find yourself in a moment of passion, and what are you going to do? Are you just going to stop the person you're having an affair with? Like, it is not always easy to control these moments of passion, and so what do you do when they catch you off guard? Well, I think Epicurus has some lessons to share with us on this topic. He says, "Don't talk unless you must. When you talk, you might say something you'll later wish you could take back." This reminds me of another quote that I love from Marcus Aurelius, which is, "Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny." The point is that everything we do and say matters because it shapes who we are. It shapes our habits and our character, and ultimately our destiny. And so in moments of passion, we need to be really careful with what we do and what we say. Because if we act or speak in a way that is inconsistent with our values, it's going to chip away at our character over time. It's going to make us less of who we want to be. When I think about moments of passion, I think about my own experiences with anger. Because anger is an emotion that I struggle with. And I know that when I get angry, I can say and do things that I regret. So one thing I try to do in those moments is to take a step back and ask myself, will I regret saying or doing this? Will this make me feel better in the long run? Or will it just make me feel worse? In general, Stoicism teaches us that we shouldn't indulge in emotions. We shouldn't let our emotions control us. But it doesn't teach us to never experience emotions. In fact, I think Stoicism teaches us that it's okay to experience emotions. It's okay to get angry, it's okay to get sad, but it's what we do with those emotions that matters. So in moments of passion, I think it's important to remember that you are in control of your emotions. You are in control of your actions. And what you do in those moments will shape who you are. When I think about moments of passion, I also think about my own experiences with sex. And I realize that it's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment and to lose track of yourself. But I also know that those moments are fleeting, they pass quickly. And so I try to savor them, I try to be present in them, and I try to enjoy them. I think there's a lesson here for all of us. It's that we need to be careful in moments of passion. We need to be aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And we need to make sure that we're acting in accordance with our values. But we also need to remember that we are human. We're all flawed and we will make mistakes. But the key is to learn from those mistakes and to keep moving forward. And that's why I love Stoicism so much. It's not about being perfect. It's about learning from your mistakes and becoming a better version of yourself. My favorite story about passion actually comes from the world of sports. You see, there was this hockey player named Marc Messier. And Marc Messier was known as one of the greatest hockey players of all time. And he played for several teams throughout his career. But there was one team that he played for that was in Edmonton. And while he was playing for Edmonton, They won 5 Stanley Cups. But after playing for Edmonton for several years, he decided to leave and go play for another team. And when he left, he was booed by the fans. They were upset that he had left. And when he came back to Edmonton to play against his old team, he was greeted by boos and jeers. But Mark Messier didn't let the negativity get to him. In fact, he used it as motivation. He played an amazing game that night. He scored 6 points and his team won. And afterward, when he was interviewed about the experience, he said this: "The crowd was unbelievable. I haven't heard that many boos since I was 15 years old and got thrown out of my parents' house for the first time." And I think this is such an amazing story because it shows that it's okay to experience negative emotions. It's okay to be angry, to be sad, to be rejected. But what matters is how we respond to those emotions. Do we let them consume us? Or do we use them as fuel to make us better? See, Mark Messier could have let the boos get to him. He could have let them make him angry or bitter or resentful. But instead he used them as motivation. He used them to make him better. And that's the lesson I want us all to take away from this video. We all experience moments of passion. We all experience anger, jealousy, fear, sadness. But what matters is how we respond to those emotions. Do we let them consume us? Or do we use them as fuel to make us better? And that is why I love Stoicism so much, because it teaches us that we are in control of our emotions. We are in control of our actions. And what we do in moments of passion will shape who we are. Thanks for watching.